everybody. It's Anthony Bowling and another episode of Chasing Gazillions. Ain't the same as making millions. Anthony Bowling Group, just bringing you local information that's beneficial to you, information that's going to help you. And we have a special guest here again today. We have a local Ward 7 resident, a voter, Teresa Rowell. She's a Hillcrest resident. She's a dog owner. She walks her dog, and she was saying, hey, you know what? I have some questions of these candidates, and my questions aren't getting answered. And these are things that are important to me. So she's come on the show today, everybody, to ask her questions of, and maybe we should be changing the name of this show, Villareal, from Chasing Gazillions to Ask VJ. Or better yet, today's episode is a good one. So you think you know VJ, huh? Really? Let's find out. Everybody, this is Teresa Rowell. Teresa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, dear. Thank you for coming on board. You can tell everybody a little bit about yourself if you like, or jump right into it with your questions of Villareal VJ Johnson. You know, the topic again is, and just as a backdrop, I ran into Teresa. We were walking. I was biking. I was out exercising. And I said to her, oh, hey, can we stop by and talk to you? She's like, no. I say, well, do you know Villareal? She's like, yeah, I know VJ. I was like, oh, you do? She's like, yeah, I know what he's done here in the community. Oh, you do? Yes. Are you voting for him? Well, I can't tell you who I'm voting for. Oh, okay. Well, are all your questions been answered? Do you really know him? So that's why Teresa's here. Teresa, the show is yours.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, thank you. Just a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in D.C. I'm actually living in the house that I grew up in. I bought it from my parents back in 1990. Yes. So I'm very familiar with the area. I'm a senior. I'm a cyclist. I'm a homeowner and also a small landlord owner. And so some of the questions that I have are going to be focused towards those. And so the first one is the crime in our area has picked up as well as everywhere else. And just wondering what your thoughts are to try to address it in our area. And specifically, my nephew was visiting me maybe about 3 weeks ago, and his car was parked up the street. And when he went to the car, it was broken into. So it just seems like it's picking up a lot. And I'd just like to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think we got to look at crime differently in different communities. I think citywide, the media is highlighting violent crimes mostly by youth offenders. I think when we look at our neighborhood very specifically, we suffer from traffic violations. We suffer from nuisance crimes, where people are stealing our packages, people are taking stuff out of our garage, people are taking stuff out of our cars, right? And then on occasion, we suffer some randomness of some drive-by that has nothing to do with the neighborhood, or some speed chase, some stolen car from PG is blazing down Branch Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue. So, I mean, I think we got to look at it differently. I think where we live, south of Massachusetts Avenue, we don't have these wild, senseless, random acts of violent crimes like you hear about on the news, but we do have these threats to our peace of mind and our security. And one thing we have to do, I will do as your council member, is to continue to build the civic infrastructure and community. I think you've been around long enough to know that we used to have police service areas where the monthly meetings with police PSA officers, where neighbors would come together and collaborate and talk about what they see on a day-to-day giving the officers the information that they then use that intel to reposition and redeploy their polices, right? We know the larger agenda is to support the mayor, to grow the police force. When Councilmember Gray was the mayor, they had a number of 4,200. So you had to bolster the police force so you could have enough officers to go into the street and to be outside of their cars, walking through the neighborhoods. Commander Officer Prasad, you may see him every now and again on a Segway. He may not be walking, but he's on a two-wheel machine, riding through the alleys, riding through the neighborhood, stopping to talk to you on your porch. We need more of that in the community because that builds a sense of security. Also back in the day when Chief Ramsey was the officer, when he was the chief of police, the police cars would have the lights on. So when you see the police come through, you see the lights. It wasn't, you didn't do anything, but you knew that you had visibility of the police. And you see some of that now with the police. Sometimes they sit in details. And these are all deployment strategies that help people feel safe and also deter crime. So we got to be an advocate for that. We know that defund the police. We know that COVID put a strain on the system, defund the police. The movement after George Floyd took resources out of the police and reinvested them into intervention programs, which is why we're stuck with a police force was limited to low capacity. And all those things have had an impact on how crime has shaped our perspective and how we've experienced our day to day. We do need to get back to what is neighborhood watch, orange hats. I know everybody says they want to get back to that. Even in our neighborhood, if you notice, neighbors still have their police watch ID number on their homes, right? So we know people who are supportive of participation in police and who are watching out for us. Our neighborhood is pretty secure because a lot of people got Ring cameras. A lot of people participate in the city's buyback, where you can get a camera and you get a rebate from the city for putting security on your property, especially if you allow that access from MPD. So these are all the things that we do in our neighborhood that needs to be done citywide, but we also need to support the executive to grow the police force, put the right investments into MPD. Also, be tougher on violent offenders and repeated violent offenders. And I have been a proponent of pretrial detention. If you have committed a violent crime against your neighbor, you stole a car, you shot somebody, you shouldn't come home until the judge looks at your case and make sure you're no longer a threat to yourself or someone else. So those are some of my thoughts about public safety and crime.
Do you support the new crime bill that they?
I did support it. I still support it. There's 100 it's 100 ideas in there. I don't necessarily agree with all those ideas, but I do support the pretrial detention for violent offenders who shoot and kill and maim people, who snatch cars. I think you should not shoot somebody and be back on the street in 4 to 6 hours, right? So pretrial detention is one of the things that I like about the program. I also like a wonky part of it is making information available, right? Because one of the things that we talk about, crimes in DC are mostly crimes of opportunity, meaning most people are just trying to get more money. They're trying to feed their families. They're trying to eat. They're suffering from, the parameters of poverty. But in this new bill, we are allowed to know more about youth offenders faster. So you could take that information and you can use that information to invest in their families and their household. I always talk about family stabilization is something that we need to do more of because children who grow up in those situations are socialized into a lifestyle many times that they have no control over. So if mom and dad are healthy, whole, well, that means children will ultimately grow up healthy, whole, and well. And if you look at the number of children who grow up in poverty, who end up involved in crime versus the number of children who grow up, stabilized or middle class, they're less likely to choose to participate, right, in activities that lead them down a pathway of violence or criminal behavior. So we have to understand what are the contributions to that, and we have to systemically attack those contributions to create those environments that push these young people into these pathways that are not productive for their lifestyle, for a productive, contributing lifestyle as a citizen.
Okay, thank you. So the second area I'm going to focus on, I am a cyclist, and I've been a cyclist for a long time.
I'm a cyclist.
Yeah.
Getting it in, getting me breakfast.
Getting it in.
Yeah,
DCC.
There you go.
So I'm a member of several cyclist clubs. One of our concerns, of course, is traffic in this area and no bike lanes to support us.
You're going to get me shot. They're not going to vote for me. They already told, look, I had a meet and greet at Miss Toya's, and the people who came there, they were supportive of me. I said, I've been hit twice. They was like, so? No bike lanes. They were just, but here's the complexity. I don't even know what your question was. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm just
we all need to share the road. We all pay taxes. I understand their concerns, but they also have to understand our concerns. I don't know if you ever rode down Hillcrest Drive with all of the drivers behind you trying to pass you and not giving you the just a courtesy to get where you're going on your bike.
Look, I gotta send you the map, the route that we made for Hillcrest. It's 7 hills. It's a 3-hour ride, 12-hour.
I've done that. I've done the hills. In fact, I just did the hills of Hillcrest today.
So I got hit on Branch Avenue as a result, right?
Mm-hmm.
So none of the hills in our neighborhood have bike lanes. We
Right.
have a loose bike lane path on Alabama Avenue past Pennsylvania Avenue that kind of takes you, past Mass, almost to Southern, right? But everything else is really like you on your own, unless you go backside down Suitland Parkway, and then they have a trail path, but it's never clear. So, I don't know how many pairs of gaiters I bought to, survive these DC streets, right? Because it's not worse than getting a flat tire. But I've been hit Branch Avenue, and I've been hit Prout Street at the gas station coming across the bridge.
Right.
Navigate that merger.
Right.
Now let's talk about it. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk about it because the messaging around this has always been off. Bike lanes are a part of public safety. Public safety allows for everybody, pedestrian, cyclist, driver, to reduce the number of opportunities that someone can be hit. A car can be hit, a pedestrian can be hit, a cyclist can be hit by a car, a cyclist can hit a pedestrian, right? And especially at that Minnesota Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue corridor, it's crazy dangerous down there. We need more bike lanes, right? And that intersection, I think, is the second highest intersection for fatalities in the city. But we have a large number of our neighbors who work with the politicians to prevent us from having those security measures. Now, I'm a cyclist, you're a cyclist. My son likes to ride his bike in the neighborhood. So, he's got to ride, he has to ride on the sidewalk. So if he comes out of, the neighborhood 33rd and gets on Branch Avenue, I'm not comfortable with that, right? Because the Branch Avenue, Alabama Avenue, I'm not comfortable with that because the drivers aren't driving as if they're in our neighborhood. They're not driving as if they're in the neighborhood. They drive Alabama Avenue just like they drive Bennett Road or just like they drive Pennsylvania Avenue, like it's not in a neighborhood, and the same with Branch Avenue. We do have to fight to build a a pathway and a network of bike lanes in Southeast, because a number of us not only ride as exercise or as competitors, but also as commuters. I got a neighbor, Winslow. Winslow has an electric bike. He lives on Branch Avenue. And he came on this podcast earlier, and he rides his bicycle. He rides his bicycle down Branch Avenue. You see Winslow riding. You see, and he gets on Pennsylvania Avenue, right? But it's so dangerous unless we're going to be on the sidewalk. And then you have people complaining about us on the sidewalk, which is illegal for us to cycle on the sidewalk. So we just have to reframe the narrative and the message that bike lanes are part of public safety. And that those of us who choose to cycle and to use single occupancy vehicles to get around should have an option to do so. Now, the flip side is that, jokingly, I told you about the supporters who shot me, when I talked about the bike lanes, but I had to hear from their point of view. A lot of my supporters are older. They're not riding bikes. You're different, right? We ride bikes. You've still been riding bikes since day one. That's how, one of the things we connected on. But a lot of our seniors, 65, 70, 75, they're not riding bikes. And they dependent upon cars. They're not riding scooters. They're not getting on metro. The ones that are dependent, they do have to do metro access or some of those programs in a vehicle for hire. So I had to think differently about that. And then, but overall, people see bike lanes as a sign of white privilege and gentrification. And I don't necessarily agree with that as much as I agree with that we're thinking differently about mobility. And we all don't have to just travel through our cars anymore. We want a community that allows us to travel in multiple modes, right? Whether we want to walk, cycle, scoot, skateboard, whatever, right? We want to move around town safely, securely. And unfortunately, everybody believes in global warming, and the city itself and the nation itself is trying to reduce the dependency on single occupancy vehicles. So when you hear everybody say, oh, I believe in global warming, but don't take my car away from me, you can't have it both ways, right? So we have to do some things differently.
So to that end, a lot of the traffic is coming through our neighborhoods. A lot of the Maryland traffic is coming through our neighborhoods. And I know we have the do not enter signs for certain periods, but they're not being adhered to. Is there anything that is being looked at to address that? Because they're just coming, they're just pouring in.
Well, see, that goes back to police force that's without capacity. Mm. You can remember 10 years ago, we used to have a better traffic component to MPD. I can tell you what they used to be. They used to be at Branch in the alleys. They used to be on Denver or 33 in the alleys, waiting for you to cut through. They used to be down there on Fairlawn, waiting for you to cut through. They used to be at 27th and O, waiting for you to cut through. They used to be deep on O Street, past where the 70 CBS is now, waiting for you to cut through. But we don't have the luxury as we had to have that many more police that you can say, oh, these police officers are just going to deal with traffic. So we have to continue to grow the police force so we can pull more officers to focus on traffic. Because at the end of the day, the only way to curtail that traffic that impacts us, that cut through traffic that impacts us, that's coming from Maryland, that's going through Pennsylvania, Branch Avenue, Naylor Road, and when they hit traffic and it bottlenecks, they want to cut through the neighborhood to get through. That impacts us in the morning. Like when I'm coming out the house with my kid, getting them in the car, you got cars zooming with Maryland tags at 7:30 in the morning. Again, it's back to public safety. I no longer feel secure. I no longer feel secure for him, right, to go load his book bag in the car, especially if the car's across the street, right? So that's a public safety issue. But we have to grow the police force. Unfortunately, all of us got rumble strips. We got speed humps. We got extended speed humps. We got the other speed humps that are kind of wide and up, and it don't help. Those people still blow over there, and they ruin their axle, they mess up their alignment, and in some instances they lose control and hit our cars on the street. Right? We have a neighbor right there on Alabama and 32nd. Traveler lost control coming around that bend and ran into her yard. Right? So we don't know how to change bad behavior. We can't legislate morality. We can't legislate people being good people, but we can legislate stiffer penalties, and we can do more investment with DDOT and planning to slow traffic down. Now, I was a part of the movement that slowed that traffic down on Minnesota Avenue, but you hear everybody complain about that now. But that was a 15-year endeavor because we had lost a life at the intersection of M Street and Minnesota Avenue. That started when Fenty was in office. So that's 15, 16-year endeavor, probably longer than that, to get to where we are today with how traffic flows on Minnesota Avenue. And they have been successful. They have slowed traffic down, and they have seen improvements in a lot of the metrics that DDOT have. And we may need to do that in Alabama. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago at Beers with DDOT. We can learn from Minnesota Avenue. I don't think Minnesota Avenue is the best model, but we got to do some things differently that make people understand that driving dangerously is a threat to public safety and can cost lives, just like someone using a gun, an illegal gun, under the influence of uncontrolled emotion or drugs.
Okay, so how much more time do I have? I have a couple more questions. So the next one.
Yes. Go ahead, dear. You know Melinda Bowling, and she'll be fine waiting for me to come and pick her up.
Oh no,
Definitely.
I know her, yeah, but
I don't know if she's gonna be fine.
no.
So, but come on with your questions, dear, because
All
that's
right.
why we invited you to be on this show.
Okay, a couple more. One is about, as I mentioned before, I'm a small landlord, and the laws have been really against us, and it's becoming harder and harder to maintain the properties that we have as a small landlord with all of the legislation that has been put in place. And so, how do you view the small landlord in the city, and what can you do, or what is your position on the new legislation that has been constantly being put in place to sort of hamper small landlords?
Well, you know, when they say this is unscripted and be live, they are. This is tough, right? These questions are unpopular. I mean, there's no. This is not one of those things like me being the president of the Hillcrest Civic Association, and I'm raising money to give out $15,000 worth of scholarship where everybody's going to support you, right? Yes, we want. This is an activity that everybody can get on board with and support, and it's not divisive. All these questions you asked me are polarizing questions, and you know, depending on where you are, man, you're wrong, right? Look, owning a home and using it to build wealth with passive income is part of the American dream, and everybody needs to be allowed to do that. It's your right to do that. And so, yes, we don't want to stop people from doing that. The complexity here is that it's not the small landlord that the laws are trying to really protect. It's the larger corporate entities, like with the Airbnb, right? When I Airbnb my house, that was before they changed the law, and it was a great opportunity to make money off of space in your house, your basement, whatever you wanted. I think our area was when I first started, it was like $77 a night. And then once you got 6 or 7 stars, you can do like 110, 125. And then the city changed the law, right? Because the corporate entities was buying multiple units, apartment buildings, 4 units, houses, transforming them and getting around certain laws. And then like the hotel association started to advocate to stop that, right? But you and I got caught up in the shuffle, right? I don't know how to nuance that. I don't. I'm not. I just participated in the Coalition for Nonprofit Housing and Economic Development uh, uh, advocacy training program, and I learned more about the nuances of these complex issues around housing, affordable housing, housing affordability, tenant rights, TENAC, TOPA. But the city is so protective of the resident, of the tenant against the big monsters, right? You just saw a few months ago, 14 major developers, major management companies conspired to change the rent prices and inflated the rent prices to be above the national average, right, and above the national market, right? They conspired to do that. So the city is sensitive because nobody wants to displace, right, poor people, Black folks, people with special needs and special circumstances and situations. And that's not you. That's not me. That's not Anthony Bolin, right? That's not anybody who we know, right? We're just trying to make a little extra piece of change off of our asset. And then you got the flip side. You got tenants who take advantage. And then you got slumlords, right? Or owners who don't even register. They don't get the basic business license. They don't have the requirements like the city asked them. And then they get mad when they get in a situation and the laws work against them, right? And then they stuck with an asset that they can't make their mortgage on, right? So it's a very complex issue. And all I can honestly say is that I'm very sensitive to it and I'm empathetically aware. And I unfortunately, I land on the side of the tenant because DC has a history of screwing over tenants dating back to the 70s, where a lot of people were just getting evicted because owners of multi-unit buildings would just kick people out and sell the building or destroy the building or convert the building. So I don't know. I think we have to be compassionate and sensitive for the tenant, but we do have to work for the small business owner who's doing the right thing with their their property, who's trying to earn passive income, which they should legally be allowed to do as their right. But it's a complex problem. And Anthony's the expert in the real estate space.
Yeah, and let me just jump in here. I know it's not my show; it's your show, Teresa. And we appreciate these questions, and it is unscripted, it is tough. But I just wanted to share a couple of things on that point. Being as a licensed real estate broker here in DC, more than 35 years. First, there are a lot of social services and processes we have in place in the District of Columbia that we take a great deal of pride in, that on the flip side, no other jurisdiction does and provides for their residents. We are the most tenant-friendly jurisdiction in the United States.
We know.
Okay. So what does that mean? That's good. Oh, if you're a tenant and there's protections for you. But what you are facing and what I've seen with my clients like yourself, and by that I take it you own less than 10 units here in the District of Columbia. You are a small landlord. You are a small business owner and operator. All of the small independent business operators are getting squeezed from the industry,
Yes.
whether it's an independent real estate broker who's by himself trying to do business here, getting squeezed by larger entities, whether he's a small independent pharmacist, independent, small, squeezed through regulations and operating costs, and small landlords who don't have the ability to disperse and spread costs across 10 units or more. You only have 4 units, and if you have a tenant population that is very high with maintenance costs and upkeep that are exorbitant, right? Then for you this month, if you have to replace a refrigerator, I mean, the tenants say, yeah, I need a new refrigerator, but that's $800 where you might be only getting rents of $900. And they're like, yeah, I need a new refrigerator. And on and on and on. So that is what's happening. You're being squeezed out. It's not it's not that the city is conspiring to crush you and squeeze you out. It is the city seeking to protect its most vulnerable, its poorest, to protect them. The result is your operating costs going up. So that's where you are. I'm gonna jump back out, let you get your last question in, and we appreciate you so much coming on, Teresa. Thank you for coming, everybody. This is one commercial plug. This is Chasing Gazillions, not the same as making millions. Hanging out with Anthony Bowling Group, your local real estate professional, bringing you information and questions that are helpful to you in this community. We have our special guest here this evening, Teresa Rowell, local resident, lifelong Ward 7 Hillcrest resident, who's here, who had some questions for council member Villareal VJ Johnson candidate, and that she wanted to get answered. And we extended her and anyone else the opportunity to come on, get their questions fully answered from the candidate. Teresa, you have the floor.
Hey,
right.
Teresa, real quick, I wonder, thinking out loud, using my outside voice, if the city, and I can look into it and we can talk offline, is there a program that would help small business owners and operators who are landlords in special circumstances and situations where they may be negatively impacted by bad tenant, where the city can like provide resources or services to make sure that they protect that tenant, right? Because if our laws are the best in the country for protecting the tenant, then the government is saying to us they have an obligation and they care about protecting tenants. So if I don't have the means to get that new refrigerator for that tenant because the margins are so thin, well, maybe the city, we should write for the city and the city should pay for that, right? And do some kind of programming like that. I'm not sure that it exists. If it does, I'm not aware of it. But maybe we transfer some of that responsibility to the government, especially when the tenant itself may be problematic, right? Or may be impacting our ability to do more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's usually the case. The tenant doesn't pay rent, and it takes 6 to 8 months to get them out with no rent being had for the small landlord.
Well, it takes longer than that because a lot of landlords don't have their stuff together, right? They don't have the necessary paperwork. They haven't done the inspections. They haven't done the insurance.
Even if you do, it still takes that amount of time.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can talk offline about that.
Oh, sure.
My last question is basically personal, and that is you've been involved, or you know about the situation about the alley on Hillcrest Drive. the one that we tried to get repaved because of the just the way it is. There are a lot of seniors down here.
I do have an
We've
update
been
from the chairman of
asking.
the City Council.
Okay, great, because they said that there was something in the budget for us, but nothing has happened so far. So that's my personal question to you.
So this budget, right? So this is what I know. I'm going to the text message from the chairman. Let me get the email.
Okay.
I think you're on all the emails, right?
No, Carmen is. I don't think I am, or I have not received any for a while.
Okay, let me pull up the latest email about this very particular issue. And do you want to give the audience kind of the particulars, or do you want me to do it? Because this is a very awkward, unconventional, rare, probably would never ever happen again, right? Situation that you all are facing on the Hillcrest Drive, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. You want to give it to him, or you want me to do it?
Well, basically, we have a driveway. It is private at some points. Part of it was part of a tax sale that the district still has. I don't know what happened to that, but the driveway is, you can hardly get down there because of the condition of it. We have a lot of seniors here. This is where we park a car. This is where the trash men come. This is where the fire department comes. So there's a lot of public use of the alley that has caused a lot of the damage that we are now facing.
All right, so I'm gonna add a little bit more to it, so everyday people can know what we're talking about.
Okay.
So the residents on Hillcrest Drive do not have a public owned access easement into the back of their home. The people that live on for Hillcrest Drive at certain access points may have 2 to 3 stories of steps to get to the front of their house from the street side, but they have this back entrance side from W Street and an easement that is privately owned by all of you all. All of you all have a piece of that, and the private developer that created those houses that you all own did not cede that piece of land over to the city, so the city can access it, control it, and develop an alley. As a result, somebody purchased a small piece of it in a tax sale. The city has been able to get that back. And what the city is trying to figure out, and it's going to be very expensive to do it. I think our last number is somewhere $800,000 to $1 million to turn that into an alley, right? And don't quote me.
Okay.
This is what I know. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with the chairman at the labor dinner.
Okay.
But there is money to, somehow the government has to take over that private space, or you all have to cede that private space to them, which will allow the city to come in there. It's not even a paper alley, right? It is a piece of property that is shared amongst all of you all that live in that portion of Hillcrest Drive. But the chairman is now trying to work with city to figure out how to develop it and turn it into a functional alley. And there are problems because that part of Hillcrest Drive, most of the neighbors are aging. It's a one-way, so you got to go down there. You got to try to back out. It's not safe during the winter, during snow, during ice. When it's a heavy rain, it creates the flooding back there. And then your EMT can't get back there. So God forbid you got to get a fire truck back there or an ambulance back there. It's just a nightmare, right? I've been aware since y'all pulled me into this, and I've been trying to do what I'm supposed to do. I don't know where your commissioner is on this or where the ANC is on this, but you probably want to pull them in. But I really believe that they just approved the budget. And that the chairman has been really committed to this on behalf of us as Hillcrest residents to get this finally done. within the next year. But
Okay.
it was a lot of technical nuances to how to make the government seize private land to develop it without you all legally ceding it over or something like that. It was very technical.
Okay. Well, I look forward to an update on that.
But you all are going to get an alley, and hopefully I get some votes, right? And I can.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's a great way, a great segue for us to end on this.
Yes.
Again, this topic today was, so you think you know VJ, and I think this last conversation, this last discussion here, is something for the record that I want to bring out for our listening audience, and that is Villareal VJ Johnson is involved fighting and helping residents without the title of council member. Did you hear him on that last issue? How knowledgeable he was about the issues, the nuances, but more importantly, what did he say? The last update I just got from the chairman of the city council. This is a human being who has been fighting for you, the residents of Ward 7, without the title of council member. He's there. He's been there. You know him. You know what he's been doing for you where it matters to you.
Yeah.
That's not my issue. I'm over here on 31st. All that hill and water and alley, not my issue. And yet, here is Villareal fighting, talking to council members, the chairman of the council, about getting a resolution for these matters. How much more do you think he's going to do if we send him downtown as our council member?
And let Teresa, we have a lot of connections and we've talked. But I think she suffers the same thing that a lot of people do. Like, I know VJ, I know he's in the community, I know he cares, I know he's working, I know he's helping where he can in his civic capacity as a president. But still, I don't know if I should vote for him for council member. But then you got 9 other people who've been running a campaign for 6 months, only giving you
sound bites,
a lot of platitudes, a lot of anything promises that sound like you don't really know what you're talking about anyway. But people are attracted to that. So I've been competing. The campaign has been competing against 9 other people who just showed up. Many of them got government financing, and they're just campaigning with a lot of signs and saying anything that they think is attractive. But people are drawn to that, and people are entertaining that. And here it is. You have a legitimate candidate who has relationships downtown, who worked downtown, who has experience in the council. You have a person who has experience in civic life. You have a person who does work, right? With or without a title, professionally or as a volunteer. And then you have people be like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about VJ. VJ, tell me why I should elect you as a council member. And I'm like, why? But I do it, right? Because that's part of the job. It's been a transformative experience for me that I have to explain why I should be promoted by the voters of the District of Columbia to go downtown as a professional legislator and get paid to do more of what I've been doing in a civic capacity as a volunteer, when these other people just get to show up and people just be like, okay, I'll vote for you. And you're like, what? Why is that something? So Teresa, can you answer that question for me, for the audience? What makes that make sense to you? If it does make sense at all.
Well, for people who just show up with the sound bites, it doesn't make sense because they don't know the community. They don't know the issues that we are faced with. I believe you need a candidate that is familiar with the area, that has prior civic involvement in the area, who has supported the citizens, and who overall will take that experience to the greater council board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Look, does any of the 9 other candidates lend themselves to the complex problem of the back alley of the Hillcrest Drive neighbors?
No.
Well, there we go. I got a block of votes, Anthony.
Literally a block. Literally
a block of votes.
Right. There's a block. Although I'm not sure if I went to that block today and I said, "Hey, are you going to vote for Villareal Johnson for council member?" And I guarantee you, on that block, I still would get a human being that would be saying, "Villareal." Yeah, I say VJ. Well, yeah, no, I know VJ.
Yeah, he was over here the other day. We was playing.
Yeah, VJ was just over here. But this Villareal Johnson, that to be a council member, I don't know. I have to think about that one. And I know we're laughing, but Teresa,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what you probably you don't have a reason to know. On this campaign, every day, I'm not even exaggerating, we meet human beings who talk about the great things that VJ has done for them, has done for their father, has done for these children, has done for these seniors over the years. And then that same human being, when we say, well, yeah, that's the candidate, it's like, what? No. VJ, yes. Villareal, I don't know him. Right. What are you talking about? You just described that he saved, right?
It's so cat. He climbed the tree to get the cat.
Exactly. The whole campaign is just, it's nothing but kept us laughing because we are stunned. A person can be saying, well, you know, he did this for my daughter and she went on to do this and he helped her get a job and this, that, and the other. And we're like, yes. Well, would you support him by putting a sign in your yard? I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I want to put myself out there like that.
It's crazy. But I will say this. We spent the day at Hillcrest today, and I think we got every vote that went in there. So to Teresa's point, you know, we run into like people who just moved into the community 5 years ago, or we run into people in the new part of Ward 7. But those who've been around, you know, those who run our neighborhoods, those that have advocated for our high quality of life and our prosperity across this ward, they are voting for us. I mean, we get the text, but it's just amazing. It is really amazing how many people sing my praises, VJ. They sing VJ, the community man's praises. And then it's just hard for them to adjust, to be like, oh, he's leaving the community? You want to leave the community? No, you can't leave the community. You can't go downtown because then you're going to become one of them. And who's going to fight for us? It's a really interesting case study where people are like, no, VJ, you need to stay with us in this community and fight with us against the boogeyman, fight with us against, you know, the powers that work against us, you know? And they're like, no, don't go downtown. It's like the dark side or something. But I can take all the aspirations and all the hopes and all the dreams and all the experiences downtown, which is what we need in our legislator. And this is the problem that Ward 7 has had over the years, right? We put people in office with no connectivity to the community, no depth of experience on how to make government work for you, the Ward 7 neighbor. And then we get pissed off when they turn on us and sell a vote. And then we get a 300-bed halfway house, right? In Ward 7. Or we get
a hole in the ground. We got 3 holes in the ground where there should be grocery stores.
Yeah, or unlike any other place in the city, we have, and there's nothing wrong with a transitional housing center for homeless folks. But when you talk about trans-oriented development, you don't put that over top of Benner Road Metro Station. It's the only place in the city where we botched a prime opportunity, right, to increase income in our community and build up that area of Benning and East Capitol Street. Because unfortunately, yes, we are helping those in need go from homelessness to housing, but it's not bringing any income into our community. It's not giving us extra dollars to build more amenities. It's not being attractive.
Is that kind of project? Is that kind of development project on top of any other metro station in the system?
No, it's not.
I'm saying, is that the kind of housing you're gonna have in White Flint, Rockville? Don't even get me started.
Center, you look at City Center, Noma, the Wharf. You look at all these you look at. Man, when I left for college, we didn't have a metro station. We didn't have an Anacostia metro station. When I got back from college, we had an Anacostia metro station. And Anacostia metro station and U Street metro station came online in 1996 at the spring and fall. Look how U Street has been transformed in the same amount of time versus Anacostia. Both of those train stations came online in the same year. Look at U Street and look at Anacostia. And that's the stuff that I'm talking about.
We need an advocate. Yeah. We need someone who understands that, who this matters.
It gotta matter. Yeah. 30 years ago.
All right.
Sorry, we was getting into I was getting passionate. They don't see me like that often. I gotta stay cool, right?
That's right. Councilman, like not
community man, right?
Not community man.
Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome.
I'll see you around. And we got to get on the bike.
She saw me this morning almost get hit at the corner on my bike.
Yes, these cars.
Like 5 cars came out of nowhere.
Yes. They did.
Here's another problem. They don't believe Black people cycle. That's another problem.
I've been cycling all my life. Commuted here. Yeah. Commuted to work.
These Black people advocating for bike lanes who cycle. Show us who they are. It's 15 of us in the neighborhood that go down to Anacostia Park at 6 a.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah.
It's 15 of us. It's 25 total. We even getting jerseys made, right? And we live in a neighborhood. And people are like, the Black people don't ride bikes.
Same thing with swimming. And my son was DCIAA Swimmer of the Year when he graduated high school. Okay, but brothers don't swim either. We don't swim.
As we fight, as VJ, ANC 7B05, single member district commissioner, brings the pool, the 20-year promise pool, the indoor aquatic facility, back in conversation, $15 million in the capital budget from 2 years ago. And now we're building the project. And now people are like, Black people don't swim. Yes, we do. We all in the neighborhood. Like, it's crazy how they keep saying what we don't do when we advocate for stuff.
And no one else is advocating for these things that are going to improve the lives of Ward 7 residents across the board. Hey,
I gotta go. Let us go.
Okay.
I can go on and on and on.
All right.